Hello everybody and welcome to Wednesday's Live. Today we're going to paint the amazing UNESCO World Heritage Site, Mont Saint-Michel, on the cusp of Normandy and Brittany. And this, I know this is the picture I posted. I think I'm going to go with something a little bit different. I'm going to go with this horizontal image. I like the sky in this one better. But just some little fun background on the place. We spent an amazing day there. We walked around when the tide was low. And as you can see, it's fairly firm, even with the water out. Firm in some places. Not so firm in others. It looks slick, but here it was rather solid. You can see our footprints there. There are places where it is a little bit sloppier. They have this amazing clay that you can put your feet in, and it has the property of not smelling fishy. So spas collect the stuff and sell it for, I think, 200 grams for 70 euros, which would be a couple tablespoons short of a cup for $75. But I will admit it did make our feet feel really good after we got out. We also went to further up on the parapet there into the famous La Mer Poulard restaurant, where they make these special type of omelet. It's basically the chef whips the eggs into a meringue-like froth, and he did it with a kind of a reggae rhythm, bouncing the whisk on the pan. And then they put them in a big pan, and then they cook them over a wood fire. And I watched the guy pull out 3 or 4 of them and just dump them in the garbage because they weren't the consistency he wanted. So it's rather a pricey lunch, but one you'll never forget. But here we go. So the one I want to use is, I think, this one. I might borrow that kind of illuminated bit there. So I'm going to pull this up so we can see. Hi, Michael. And that looks like it will be better. So we're going to do a couple. Oh, and I was going through some old sketchbooks. And I guess I was watching Rick Steves or something. And must have drawn a picture of Mont Saint-Michel in a couple of places. Apparently, they were on the other side, opposite where we are looking. But who knew when I was drawing that I would wind up there someday. So, 11 by 14 piece of Saunders waterfront. I believe I think this is Hanamula. Cold press. The draw on this is pretty simple. We've got a horizontal at about the 1/3 mark, and I stretch out so that my elbow is not bent, and I'm just lightly penciling that in. If you bend your elbow, you're going to get a windshield wiper. So you want to stretch out from the shoulder and swing your body. And you'll get a straight, but organically straight line. Then I want to position Mont Saint-Michel just perhaps a bit to the right of center, and it's basically a triangle. So make a triangle where you think you want it to occur. I'm going to pop up to a bigger version so I can see it. And as you can see, it's a little bit 60, 40, 90 with a apron coming out. And I'm going to draw it a little bit bigger than it appears, as if I were closer to it. You can walk out on that salt marsh there, and from the town we were staying in, St. Leonard, if you time it right, it is possible to walk all the way across. So we were told. We drove around. Here's the lower wall, which is quite, okay, give you an idea. The lower wall that I'm drawing now is this. So it's rather big. Probably wondering how in the world did they ever get all that material out there? And hi, Jane. And from what I understand, when they initially built it, it was not a bay, that there was some sort of catastrophic tsunami-like event that caused water to rush in, and they're not sure what it was, but some people surmise it had to do with perhaps a slapback tsunami from the 1755 Lisbon earthquake. And just a lot of water came rushing in here from the English Channel is that way. We're looking pretty much almost due west, and sort of washed the area out, and washed it out enough that the tide continues to come in and out. But altogether, the most stunning, amazing place you can imagine. So, Noel! Let's see. Let's be very... Noel lives a little further this way, and this is the view from her front yard. So it's probably evening there. Bonsoir, Noel. There's a small chapel over here, and I am going to have some of this area here. But I'm going to put, rather than such a relentless horizontal, I'm going to pitch it a little bit. I pitched this a little bit, even though it's not like that. I'm going to pitch it a little bit so it's not so relentlessly horizontal. Normandy sends its regards. Thank you, Noel. Kathy, hello. They do graze animals out there. Here's some cattle from where I was standing that morning. They also mostly graze sheep, which I think I will put in. And you think you see little white dots like seagulls or something out there, and then they move around, and they're sheep. And apparently, by eating the salt grass, Paige, hello, it imparts a flavor to the meat that is said to taste like walnut. I did not have any, but it's very interesting, I think. So, that's the draw. The next thing we're going to do is a little different than we've done before. We're going to do a wash. That's the plan. But I'm going to be adding white to the colors to get that soft pastel quality to them. They also give the paint a little more body so that they move a bit more slowly. We have a 45-degree angle here on the board. I tape to the edge, but not over the edge. So it's only held at the four corners. And I may also use a sprayer to keep the surface wet to get these very, very soft edges that I want to get with these clouds. So I've got light areas and I've got dark areas. I want to get the green to ochre to pink to soft violet behind, and then I want to put in the darker blue violets and blue grays to get the clouds. So first I'm going to mix up a color for the sky here. Let's see. Let's get some turquoise, cobalt turquoise. Plenty of it. And a bit of white to soften it. You'll notice it also lightens it a bit. I don't normally do this, but to get the quality of these colors, I think I need to, the character of them. I'm also going to put a little bit of some Naples yellow into that to give it that greenish quality of the morning skies there. Let's make lots of it. So I generally will, when I do these washes, hi David. I will, when I mix these washes, I will mix up several so I can go right from one to the other. Not have to let it dry while the next one is being mixed. So here, I'm going to mix a kind of pink. So I want a little bit of the rose, quinacridone rose. This is runny paint. Some white in it to get this pink, and perhaps a little bit of yellow, Naples yellow, to get a softer rose pink. And I think I'm going to need a little bit of the Naples yellow on its own with some white. To make a transitional color through here. Then I'm going to need this lovely violet. So I'm going to start with ultramarine blue. A little bit of the alizarin substitute, quinacridone rose. I suppose I could have used lavender, huh? That would have been the smart thing to do. Put a little bit of white in it. And then this color, let me hold it so you can see it. This color will be modified with more pigment and more blue to get that color. Oh, now I also need an orange for these clouds. So a bit of cad orange, perhaps a bit of cad scarlet. And again, the white. So I know some people frown on using white in watercolor, but I'm mixing it to get a color I want. I'm not correcting. It's not, what would you say? I'm not making, it's a positive mark, and it's no more dense when you mix it in with these colors than, say, yellow ochre or, say, cerulean blue. There we go. That looks a little more like it. So, starting with, I rinse that brush, clean this, make a bead. Very, very pale, because it's morning and I don't want this. You can see the bead forming here. Now I want to go to, ooh, that looks nasty, some rust. It's an old palette. Now I'm going to need to come under it here with that yellow, Naples yellow. Now I want to go to blotting that brush. I want to go to the orange areas, just putting them in. I'm going to need more of that. I should have mixed more. Oh dear. Let's do it quickly. Always mix more than you think you're going to need. Even I do that wrong. Okay, there's some up here. I'm letting the wet edges blend here. Going back to this. The blue color is darker. The darker portion of the clouds is going to cover this. Now I'm going into this pink. It needs to be a little bit pinker than it is. It gets darker pink as it goes down, or at least seems to. Going right through Mont Saint-Michel because it's darker. It silhouettes over this. Now, I'm going to, hello Patrick. Patrick lives near this area too. And Patrick does some beautiful, beautiful pastels of the Normandy, Brittany area. I'm going to skip the lighter portions of the building, and I'm going to take this right down to the land below because it's darker, so I don't have to worry about it. The next color I put down on top of that will cover what I've just done. I'm going to switch back into I'm going to take this, mix it with that, and get something like the color of the low tide or the receding tide. Okay. Now, I want to spritz this. Standing far back, I just want to moisten the surface so that when I mix up this darker violet color, which probably, again, this lavender would be just about right. Let's put a little of this into it too. Because this surface is somewhat moist, the edges will be soft. That's not soft enough, so I have to spritz it. Stand far away. I'm going to lighten it a little bit. So that, now as we go down the page, it's a little wetter. And that's because gravity is pulling it downhill. So I want some little small clouds too. More white. The bases of the clouds are rather flat. The air was cool that morning. The clouds get higher as the day gets warmer and the air rises. Let's make it a little darker for the bases. It's wet, so the edge is very, very soft. And further away, there's smaller, lighter, and closer together. You see any shapes that look too, hello Jeff, too perhaps geometric or inorganic, break them up. Great way to get a soft edge is use your fingers. Okay, now, this is a little drier now, so I can get a smaller brush and perhaps some burnt sienna into this orange. For Mont Saint-Michel. There are darker parts of it, but we're just going to paint through the dark parts and apply them on top. I think I might modify this a bit by putting some Naples in it to get a little more glow. Jackie, hello. Vicky, how are you? Vicky, we will be painting together soon at Paint the Fair. Of course, it doesn't matter if I paint that because that's going to be dark. Now, down here, I think I want to get something like that. So, some raw sienna or yellow ochre. These are you can see they're not as runny. The paint up top is very runny. These are slower moving, so they're going to be darker. Let's lubricate it just a bit. It's a little too yellow, and I'll put some red and blue in it to modify it. I think the clouds were opening up and it was starting to illuminate. There, so. Now, okay, we're going to get into some greens now. Ultramarine into that yellow. Some strong yellow. That's maybe too green. I need something cooler. It's turquoise. Oh, thank you, Patrick. I'm so lucky I have friends in France. Very, very talented friends in France. So now we're painting some of the salt marsh. I'm going to switch to raw umber to get this darker area, which I think is some greenish kind of. There were some weeds that appear, or vegetation that appears when the tide goes out, and it's edible and it's delicious. One of them was sort of looked like a little asparagus, and they called it salicorn. And hi, Judy. Judy went with us. And it is crunchy and slightly salty and would be delicious in a salad. So I'm putting some turquoise in this to get a different character of green, more like this. Let's put some we'll leave some little white skips in there. We'll turn them into sheep. I'm going to put some lavender in here, actually. I want a grayish green. When you put runny paint into a wet surface where there's still moisture on the surface, as I did there, it melts in. If it's too runny, it will push the paint that's there out of the way. We don't want to do that. Now I'm going to get into some brighter greens, put some yellows in. And I'm going to darken it up with ultramarine and raw umber. See, I'm touching this in here and it melts. It's thicker paint than what is there, so it melts in. Slow moving into runny gives you a soft edge. Runny into runny disappears. Too runny into wet runny paint pushes the previous color out of the way. You may want to do that, but you also may not. So be careful. Putting a little bit of Prussian blue in there for a darker blue-green. I want soft edges in here. Here and there. Texture. Notice when I do this, I don't do it this way, because that'll put birds. Do it sideways. Cover up my edges. There were some fences here. Now, while that's drying, well, let's see, what else do I want to do to it? Some lavender. To make gray. Just putting it in here or there to indicate that the grass is not all the same color. It's not astroturf, it's salt marsh. Okay, while that's drying, I'll get a similar sized brush. I have a light blue heart at the top center of my artwork. Oh, now I can't unsee it. Oh dear. Well, we're stuck with it. So this brush, because it is stiffer hairs than this brush, will carry stiffer paint. So I'm going to try to paint the background, or the ridge on the other side. There's some green in it too, so I'll smuggle that in. When we begin to put in the darks, that's when the image begins to appear. We've been working light colors mostly so far. Let's modify that a bit. Put a little more let's put a little more red in it to make it more purple. And some white to go farther away. Touch some of that in. More white. I want it to go far, far away. More white. There we go. I'm going to put some of that in here too. Again, this surface there's water still on top of the paper. So the similarity of the two consistencies lets them melt together rather than create a dark mark. And let's modify this a bit. Yes, okay, it looks fuzzy and far away. When you have a picture that is very, very horizontal, and you can't get out of having to make that and that and that and that, you can make it look a little more active if you modify the bands. So don't make that part back there all the same color. Make it a little lighter at one end or a different hue at another end. All those things will tend to help. So I think I'm going to have to turn on the hair. Well, let's see, I could do some things in here. Get some raw umber. Or some burnt umber, some earth browns. And I'm going to make this section, I made that side light, dark. I'm going to do this dark, light to reverse. Let's put some blue in it. And if you have to have a straight-ish lines, such as this, don't make them too relentless unless it's water. Let them break up a bit. So, for example, start and stop. Keep the back edge flat, and the closer edge more up and down. I'm going to put some Prussian blue in it. So again, it's not the same everywhere. Even put some fun in it. Okay. Testing for, yes, okay, it's dry. So to make Mont Saint-Michel, I'm going to wipe an area clear. Such a beautiful place. I'm going to do these slightly darker parts in those colors and hope to leave a little bit of these lights behind. I'm going to get a dirty red, mix it with this. I want a purplish gray, a little of this, let's try it somewhere, see if it's... Let's make it more purple. And some gray or some white. Too red maybe, too red. Let's see. Oh, I like it down here. All right, I'll try it. It's quite a walk to get to the top of this place, but it's definitely worth it. Yeah, Michael, that's a good point. You can get a more atmospheric looking light color by mixing the white with it than you would get if you lightened it just by putting water in. Sometimes it will look a little too anemic. So when you put the white in, it has some oomph or some body. And again, like I say, I'm using it deliberately. I'm not correcting a mistake, I planned it. And it looks deliberate, so it doesn't look so this is a little more tan version of what I had been using, just so that it's a little bit of variety. And when the dark greens go in, then it's really going to sing. This is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen in my entire life. I would liken it to probably seeing the Grand Canyon or something. Now over here, there is a close tree line it's a rather large plain. So I'm going to make a bluish green, a very bluish green. Maybe soften it with some lavender. The slightly closer trees. It's a long drive from there to there. It looks close, but it's not. A little bit over here. Can even use some of that in here, I think. So the reason I'm doing this now is to further break up this horizontal shape. So again, I won't do it all the way across. I'll do it more on one side than the other. And that will hopefully make one side different from the other. Something that's very important when you have something that has to be almost in the middle and something that's very horizontal. So I think that's enough for that. I'm going to darken this a bit with ultramarine. Let's do it up here so it's visible. Ultramarine, burnt sienna, or burnt umber. So this is going to be a green, kind of green. The umbers are browns which have a yellow undertone, so they look, the umbers and the siennas have a yellow undertone. So when they mix them with blues, they tend toward green. And if it's not enough, get a little bit of yellow ochre, which is also an iron oxide. There we go. Now, tester. What I'm going to paint now is the smallest national forest in France. A little too dark. So I'm going to put some turquoise in it and some lavender. That's closer to it. As you walk up the various walkways, they plant rather large trees in some of these areas. I'm noticing that that's starting to run and drip, so I squeezed the brush out. Oh, Jane asked, did I take the original photo on iPad? No, I took it with my phone. iPhone 15, which has a phenomenal camera. What I love about it is you can be driving along and 60 miles an hour and you shoot a photo, and except for the stuff that's very much in the foreground, it's in focus. It doesn't look like it's moving. They have some sort of, I think it's called, well, it calculates for what you're, the fact that you're in motion. All right. There are some little areas here that are a little bit blue or gray. I'll just get some lavender maybe. Down here where the Mère Poulard restaurant is. Flatten the bottom of that. Okay. Maybe go just a bit darker back here on the roof of the, I think that's the cathedral, the abbey. Now, what does it want? I think I want to dry it and glaze this area in the front a little bit. So cover your ears. I'm going to turn on the hairdryer. Okay. Glazing, glazing is when you put a runny mix of paint on a previously painted area that is completely dry. Soft brush. I think I want to put a sort of turquoise-ish glaze. Over this, leaving parts of it behind. It was too warm, I thought, for that time of day. So, runny paint. Oh yeah, I like that better. Any color can glaze any other color. Just be careful that you're not putting something over a surface that's too wet. I think I could go a little bit darker. With the trees. Nope, not that dark. If one thing gets darker, the next thing has to get darker too. Not always. Okay, better, better, better. So that had to get a little darker now as well. Raw umber, ultramarine blue. It looks like this plowed earth, but it's not. It's some kind of reed. There was another plant that we ate that was also delicious that looked like a cress, a watercress of some kind. And it was like a flat, roundish leaf, and it had a crunchy, salty character too, and it was just delicious, delicious. My cousin in Washington told me that they have it in the Pacific Northwest too. So I'm going to put some sheep in. Sorry about the wobble, I bumped my head. I'm going to use the white and the brush and I dip it right in. Some distant sheep. Try not to space them too similarly. Wide, narrow. Large and small. Merci Noel. Let's have some buildings back there. Mix it with a little bit of the Naples yellow. That's here too. Let's take the tape off and see what it looks like, and maybe that'll tell us other things we can do. If you ever get a chance to visit this area, do it. It's one of the most beautiful areas I've ever seen. Yes, more and more I feel that way, Jane. Crazier the world gets, I think the more important it is to paint. One of the takeaways that I got from going to this incredible place, and not just there, but nearby there were other cathedrals like in Avranches and Dol de Bretagne. Just the marvelous work that those craftsmen did so long ago. Just incredible cutting stone and getting it so perfect, and making gargoyles with these amazing expressions and beautiful, beautiful arches. And it made me think those guys probably did not worry about what the bishops and the popes and the kings and all those people were up to. Just day in and day out, all they ever did was probably sit up there high up in the air on their scaffolding looking at these beautiful views and just trying to get that stone cut perfectly, or get that gargoyle to have just the right expression. Just amazing artisans. And it was inspiring to me, because it just informed me how we need to be as artists. That's our job. Whatever they're out there doing in the world that seems crazy, I can't do much about that, but maybe I can distract people from doing what they do. Put some little shadows on our sheet. And yes, let's call that a picture. Just an amazing, amazing place. And so many places nearby that are equally as amazing, equally beautiful. So, hope you all enjoyed that. Oh yes, I wish I need to learn more French. So, the paint for the washes, qui cool, runny. For the darker, the paint should be lentement, slow. Oh, yeah, I know. They're very different colors that I'm using. Good point, Jackie. This is kind of more purple and green. I wanted to get some of that. And I saw this thing in so many lights that I'm thinking in terms of all the different things that I saw. So the values, how dark or how light it is, that I'm pretty much sticking with. What I'm changing maybe is the hue. So I might make this green a little greener, or a little bluer, or a little more purple here, or a little more golden there. But I'm changing the hue, but not the value. In fact, I'm looking at it now. Maybe I could glaze. I could get a little more variety here if I did a glaze over this. So again, what I'm trying to do here is make one side of this long horizontal different than the other, so that it doesn't look flat. I could maybe go darker with that. Let's see. Prussian blue, raw umber, more raw umber. So that was darker, this is lighter. Now I'm going to make this darker and that lighter. Yeah, okay. There we go. Not a whole lot more than that. So, Nancy, hello. Leah, hello. And, oh, I'm going to have to read the next comment later. Oh, thank you, Jane. So, everyone stay safe, stay sane, and I'll see you next week with something else fun. Bye-bye.